lower your levels of importance, which dissolve the walls of the maze, allowing you to then exit. Hello, Transurfer and the Transurfing Curious. My name is Renee Garcia and this is TransurfingTV, y'all. And today on TransurfingTV, I haven't been in the camera in a couple of months, so I'm actually super excited. I realized how much I miss it. I really love it now. It's super weird. I don't know how that happened. But today on TransurfingTV, lost in a maze of bullshit. This is when you apply excessive levels of inner or outer importance to the extent that it starts to exponentially create undesirable results, both in your external environment and in your mind, in your internal environment, right? I'm going to use myself as an example. It's always so humbling when I get to expose to you that I am a human being who does still, in fact, get lost in a maze of my own bullshit. And I was lost in a maze of my own bullshit this last few weeks. And it helped me to remember what I am and what I'm capable of if I do not check myself before I wreck myself, right? Because that's really what it's about. When you get lost in the maze, this is you not checking yourself, and this is you, in fact, wrecking yourself. And the more you get into the inner workings of the maze, this is things starting to exponentially evolve and increase in your external environment that is not good for you and against your intentions, right? This is why we oftentimes lose things that we deem valuable to us, either our minds, people, right? This is why relationships get off course. This is why we can oftentimes create an environment where we get exactly what it is that we do not want. It's when we do this thing. But I'm going to get into all of that in a moment. Before I begin, remember to subscribe, like this video, and comment on this video. We appreciate your energetic contribution here at TransurfingTV. We are now on Patreon. I know a lot of people have complained about how many ads are on the audiobooks, both Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5 and Tufty, the Priestess, and we have decided to give you all a solution. If you would like to support us here at ITI and what we do, we have a ton of bonuses for you on Patreon, including ad-free audiobooks, so check out the link below. Reality 2.0 on Teachable down below, check out that link, and Tufty Live Stroll Through a Movie Masterclass is getting ready to launch soon. If you want to take this powerful knowledge to the next level, I've got a killer new course coming out soon, so stay tuned for that, and follow us on the Facebook group, International Transurfing Institute Facebook group, guys. Okay, so enough of that. Lost in a maze of bullshit. I was actually talking to a friend the other night, and I referred to it as a sea of bullshit because it is like a sea and it's also like a maze. And I'm going to get into the two sort of different analogies that I use and help to clarify. This is why I love Reality Transurfing so much. It shows you the physics behind what it is you're experiencing. And it's really super easy when you get into this worldview. It's so powerful to stop yourself in the moment, any sort of extreme moment, right? Either you've caught the wave of success or you're in a panicked state. You can stop and apply this logic to whatever it is you're experiencing and realize exactly how you got there, right? And this is best described in a wave sort of analogy, but I'll get to that more in a moment. First, I want to talk about the maze. So Vadim Zeland, in Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5, he talks about the maze of insecurities, right? That once we're lost in this maze of our own creation, we sort of look for ways to get out. We apply excess potential to certain characteristics or attributes that we hold as individuals, and we try to alter ourselves to the extent where we can feel as though we're gaining headway in escaping the maze. The way to actually escape the maze pertaining to insecurities, and it's the same here, is to actively lower the levels of inner and outer importance to the point where the walls of the maze simply dissolve. You guys probably can't see my crappy little depiction of a maze here, but if you could see it, you'd realize that there's no exit. And either the path leads to a dead end or it just leads to another path, and there is no exit to the maze, right? So this is what happens when we get lost in a sea of our own bullshit or a maze of our own bullshit, right? There is no exit. And what most people tend to do, and I know that I just experienced this for myself, and I'm calling myself out on it, is I attempt to control others or circumstances to try to navigate my way out of the maze, right? So this is where we get doubly lost or exponentially lost, is when we feel as though the only way for us to alleviate whatever the suffering is, whatever the experience is to get others to do what we want or to control circumstances to match up with our version of reality inside of our minds. And this is where things become really dangerous, and this is oftentimes when we do in fact lose out, right? If you're doing this within the confines of a relationship, within a relationship, you could attempt to control your partner or external circumstances to the extent where your partner's just like, fuck this, I'm not doing this, right? I don't want, this isn't what I'm interested in. And I think this is why a lot of relationships end, right? Is you get lost in your inner and outer importance levels, and the initial response is to try to control the other person or the circumstances. So the maze for your own importance is navigated exactly the same as what Vadim Zeland instructs for the insecurity maze. Once you have checked yourself, your levels of importance, and I'll get more into how to do that specifically in a moment, but once you have checked your own levels of importance, both inner and outer, and you realize that it's you that has created the maze, then you actually have the ability to truly take control of the situation. And it's really amazing when you can catch yourself in this moment and actually apply this stuff and see it work for you in real time. What happens is most people are not able, and I'll get to the wave in a moment, but most people are not in the habit of catching themselves in the initial stage of that wave beginning. They let the wave exponentially, get bigger and bigger and bigger until it crashes, and this is when we experience something undesirable happening to us, right? So first off, before I walk away from the maze analogy, remember there's no exit from the maze. Once you're inside, you become increasingly confused and disoriented, not really understanding what the maze is constructed of. Again, especially when it has to do with other people or external circumstances, you could completely ignore or turn away from your own responsibility, take accountability for yourself, and actually work the issue from the position of self. But what a lot of people do, and I'm guilty of this too, is, I become confused and disoriented, and my initial response is to try to control externally. So I can have my outer circumstances match up with my mind, but again, that's just not possible most of the time, and it's also energetically inefficient and ineffective. So instead of lowering the levels of importance, dissolving the walls, and walking out, this is me creating an environment where I'm truly taking control of myself and my reality and saving energy to the extent that I can then apply it to something that's actually meaningful to my life. Creativity, building something, doing something that's actually going to create my own reality. Or, the other version is that I become confused, disoriented, I attempt to control circumstances or people, and I suffer energetically, and my reality also suffers because I'm not able to be in a mode where I'm creating or experiencing life or reality in the way that I want, doing what I can do in that moment because I'm too busy focused on controlling others or external circumstances. So again, maze, no exit, and all of this stuff is, what we want to get away from as transurfers. So how it happens exactly that we get here. This is what I really love about reality transurfing is this idea of the wave of success or the induced transition. They're virtually the same things. So is experiencing this from, as a result of you applying too much importance to something or to yourself. What happens is we start to turn the dial to a channel. Right? And this is when we're tuning our frequency to something in the very, very initial stages. So using something positive as an example, this would be you finding money outside and saying, oh, the wave of fortune's starting. This is where my luck is going to take off, right? And you're slightly tuning that dial to that version of reality. Your mind, your thoughts, your frequency, all that stuff starts to create an environment where you exponentially see more of that thing start to increase. Obviously, we want to do this in a positive direction as transurfers, not in a negative. An induced transition is exactly the same as the wave of success. It's just in the other direction. So you get a little bit of bad news, or you stub your toe, or you got your car scratched, or something happened. This is you slightly turning that dial to that channel. And if you're not careful, you will turn the dial more and more and more mindlessly, right? And all of those negative things exponentially start to increase in your external environment. Before you know it, everything's sort of gone to hell and nothing's working out. So this is exactly the same. What happens is we get slightly agitated, or our ego gets injured slightly, right? And if you are not in, and I know that I'm not 100% of the time, but if you're not in the habit of stopping yourself and checking in, how am I feeling right now? What is my reality? Who am I? This whole I see myself, I see my reality is exactly what we want to do in the initial stages of any shift, especially one that's to the negative, right? So it could be you slightly feeling agitated or an injured ego and you don't check it, right? Once you don't check it, the wave starts to gain some momentum. So here it's just a little bit, and then all of a sudden you don't check it and the wave starts to form. This will be you experiencing more exaggerated version of what you were previously experiencing. This could be anxiety, fear, that need to control, right? So I'll give you my example in a moment of what I did. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna do that. Okay, so after this, if you don't check this, then you're in real trouble, right? Then you have entered the maze. Then the wave starts to crest. This is pure importance. This is total, like, inner importance, outer importance. You're really actively trying to control others or external circumstances. This is excess potential tenfold. You're really putting yourself up in a place where if you do not get what it is you want, if that does not match up with your version of reality in your mind, you're going to be devastated or completely let down or whatever. So this is not a good place to be. This is dualistic thinking, and it's one theory thinking. So when I say one theory thinking, this means that you have adopted a theory for yourself that you must have something, or you must be something, or somebody else must do something, or something has to happen in a specific way, and you are applying that version of reality which you are experiencing and that which you want to control, and you're applying that to other people or other external events that you do not have control over. And this is where panic ensues, right? Because again, we kind of panic when we try to take control of something that we don't have control over, and we can see it's not going in a direction of our choosing, and this is, this throws us into a state of being that is pure anxiety and pure panic. So, my example, oh my God, I can't believe I'm gonna do this. Okay, so I had a number of opportunities pop up when I was on my last trip to Egypt, and this started to facilitate this kind of thinking, like, where's my life going and what am I going to do? Because I'm kind of just flying by the seat of my pants. I'm not really like making a definitive plan. I'm letting outer intentions sort of take me. So I had some opportunities pop up, various things that seemed very, very appealing to me, and I started to think, okay, so what is happening in my reality, and what direction do I want it to go? So then I thought of my partner at home, and I'm like, okay, so is that situation going towards some like ultimate commitment, or are we gonna get married, or are we gonna do something big together, or am I gonna be just kind of like doing my own thing? And in that case, then I'm gonna really start to, develop these things that are happening and seize those opportunities. So I came back and I started talking to my partner about this, and he told me that he wasn't interested in getting married, and I just totally, boom! I lit up on that. It was like really, really shocking to me, actually, because I don't even typically have importance levels about that stuff. And I believe the same day that this happened was actually when I gave a video talking about this exact same thing happening to someone else. So it was really, really mind-blowing to me and also to my partner. So what happened was this triggered a series of events where I started to question things about my relationship. Then I started to have inner importance about things that I was feeling. And sure enough, within a day or two, I'm in the center of the maze, trying to get out, panicked, trying to get my partner to say something that I want him to say that's going to ease some sort of suffering. And I just stopped. I just stopped and I woke up and I was like, wait a second, what the hell are you doing? You don't even necessarily want that. You just got your ego injured and slightly agitated that you didn't hear something that you thought was appropriate for you to hear or what you wanted to hear. And then you didn't check that, and that started to create more of these feelings and emotions and sensations, which, you know, resulted in anxiety, fear, where am I going? What's happening to my life? And then control. And luckily enough for me, I stopped it all before it got to this point, because it getting to this point probably would have meant me giving my partner an ultimatum, or me saying, this isn't good enough for me, I'm gonna leave, right? Or whatever it is, and the thing crashing and actually creating an external consequence because of me being lost in a maze of my own bullshit. So this is my experience of this thing. I know that this is probably, there's a lot of experienced transurfers watching these videos and in the Facebook group, and I know more or less we're keeping ourselves sort of away from this variation of reality happening because we have these tools and other things that we can use to check ourselves, right? And not go into those different versions of reality that are not pleasant. But if you do find yourself there as a transurfer, this is the best way to address the situation. Initial stages, don't let it get to where it's starting to increase, right? Definitely do not let it evolve to this place. And stop yourself. I see myself, I see my reality. What am I applying too much importance to, both externally and internally? And what work can I do that is inward focused rather than me attempting to control others, external circumstances, events, things that I have no control over? What can I do in this moment that is going to help me to alleviate suffering that I do have control over, right? So this is realizing you're in the maze, realizing there's no exit, opening your eyes. I see myself, I see my reality, dissolves confusion and disorientation, and then you can stop with your attempt to try to control and simply let the walls of the maze dissolve, and you just walk out of it without doing any damage to your life, your reality, your partner, your job, your whatever it is. So that's it. I can't believe I just told everybody that. But whatever, I've lowered importance. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. Please like and comment, let me know your thoughts, and see you in the Facebook group. Bye, guys.